recording? Or have you already done that?
I've got it started.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, Hope. First of all, like Lisa said, I'm Catherine Parker, the registered dietitian at RMC Stringfellow. I'm very excited that you've joined tonight. I'm going to be talking about the exciting topic of mindful eating and effective food strategies that you can use in order to accomplish mindful eating. So I actually have a question for the audience first. What do you think about when you think of mindful eating?
Well, I think now about paying attention to what I'm eating instead of staring off at the TV.
Hey, Hope, that's right on. Basically, the reason as a dietitian that I am super excited about this topic and really passionate about it is that it brings the attention back to food that it deserves. Basically, just like fuel is to a car, that car is not going to run without fuel. Same concept with our bodies. We have to get the right nourishment in order to function. Food can do great things for our body. It can help us to heal, to grow, to recover. But, just as it can do positive things, it can also do some harmful things if we're not getting the right portions, and if we, for instance, don't get enough of the vitamins and minerals we're supposed to get. It can set us up, for the opposite. It can either set us up for success or harm us if we're not careful. So mindful eating is basically bringing the importance of food to our attention every time, we're about to take a bite or a sip, and recognizing just what that food can do for us if we eat correctly. I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Move my mouse over. I'm a little technical difficulty. Let me get this fixed real quick. There we go. All right. So this next slide is about finding your focus. So as I mentioned before, in order to accomplish mindful eating, we have to find our focus around meal times. There's a lot of different reasons that mindset matters. You can see I've got several listed here. Really, if we're honest with ourselves throughout the day, we go through a lot of emotions, whether they're positive or negative. We might, for instance, have had a stressful day at work. We might have had something really exciting happen to us, something negative. And every time we go to eat, those emotions can affect us and our choices. Same thing with stress. A lot of times I think about stress, especially around the holidays. Or lack of sleep, excitement, change. You've got difference in your routine around the holidays if you're going to be traveling more or not eating in the same place or location. And as I was making this PowerPoint, I was also thinking a little bit about it's not just holidays. If we're quite honest with ourselves, there's always a reason or something that comes up in our life that creates a situation in which we can kind of have a little change in our routine, whether it's getting coffee with a friend or a baby shower or a wedding. There's always opportunities out there that can create a different environment around our food and cause distractions and triggers. You can see here I've got listed those are common in life. They can contribute to added consumption and a lack of awareness of food behaviors. So you can see that's why mindset matters. Throughout every day we can have a lot of different things impact us that can either set us up for success or failure with our food choices. So moving on to the next slide, I have how to find your focus. So just how are we going to tune in and get away from all of those distractions and really focus on our food when we eat. We want to be mindful of several things. Our surroundings, this is something that came to mind right away. I know we've all probably experienced this, but let's say you're eating dinner and you're watching TV, and next thing you know, you look down and you think, hey, where'd my food go? Same thing, with driving. If you're on autopilot, kind of driving the same routine back and forth every day, we kind of get distracted. So just being mindful of your surroundings, setting yourself up at the table, paying attention to your food and not letting TV distract you. Another example that comes to mind is let's say you're in a situation where you're going to eat and you've got a buffet table, whether it's around the holidays or just a wedding. Being aware of what is at that buffet table, like if for instance, there's about to be a huge line and you might feel pressured to make a rash decision or just to put a little bit of everything on your plate, being aware of that situation beforehand and taking the opportunity to go scope out that table and make a few wise choices, already know what you're going to pick. So that's just a really good piece of advice, to be mindful of your surroundings. Your actions as well. For instance, even, instead of talking to someone while you're plating your food politely, turn your attention to that action of putting the food on your plate. Be focused on what you're doing with that, and also, even pay attention to the serving size of the utensil that they have out. Pay attention. Is this a huge spoon? Does this look like what I usually use at home? I know it sounds like little things, but those things go a long way. And I have listed here your plate. We're going to talk about that as a resource in the next slide or two. Also, what you want to take into account is how you feel. Like I mentioned before, a lot of emotions can affect our food choices. So just check yourself. Every time you're going to go plate your food, I want you to think, am I upset about something? What, am I stressed out? I know a lot of people that when they're stressed, they either do one of two things. They can either not eat enough because they're stressed, or they can eat too much, kind of look at food as a comfort measure. So that's something that we need to just check ourselves on. Paying attention to your body signals is very important, no matter what your nutrition goals are, especially with bariatric surgery, really tuning into chewing your food well and swallowing your food so that it's almost the consistency of applesauce, so that basically what you're doing in that is giving your body time to recognize the feeling of fullness or satiety, and you're going to allow your body to do what it's supposed to do. As a dietitian and just as someone that works in the medical field, I like to remind people how awesome our bodies are, that they, if we use them how they're meant to be used, we can, use it as a resource, and our bodies can actually help us like they're meant to do and tell us when we're full and help us to know when we're about to overindulge or set ourselves up for getting in too many calories. So really being in tune with when you're feeling full, and I've got here listed last is to remind yourself of your goals. So every time you're going to eat, just like sometimes we leave little reminders on the bathroom mirror while getting ready for work, or in the car on the drive to work, of a goal we have in mind. Before you put that bite into your mouth, I want you to think, what are my goals? Is it to lose weight? Is it that I've got a high family genetic history of cholesterol? I'm wanting to watch out for that, and go even deeper with those goals. These are the health goals I want to accomplish, but why? Do I want to have more energy? Do I want to, spend more time with my kids, be around, for my kids and participate in what they love? So just, be real with it. Get into a state of mind where you really look at food and how it's going to help you in your life. Okay, I mentioned the plate as a tool. And this is something that, as a dietitian, I really love as well. You can see the image to the right. It says choosemyplate.gov, and basically what this is an updated version of the food guide pyramid. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the food guide pyramid, but I really prefer the Choose My Plate a lot better because, we eat off of a plate, and this is a good resource. If we're sitting there looking at that plate, we can, it reminds us to not only get all 5 of the food groups, to get proper nutrients, but you can take that plate, make half of it fruits and vegetables, a quarter of it a whole grain, and a quarter of it protein. Get you a little dairy out to the side, keeping in mind whatever extra instructions your doctor has given you that's individualized to you. So like, for instance, with the bariatric surgery here, you've got a reminder to always get that lean protein with each meal. Specifically try to eat that first, and then, continue to eat the other food groups, making sure that you're getting in enough nutrition and stopping when you're full. You can see we've even taken breakfast, which I think is pretty cool, and we've applied this concept to breakfast. So using this as a resource at all meals is something that I recommend, whether it's watching out for diabetes, cardiac disease, bariatric surgery, healthy weight. Choose My Plate is definitely something I'm a fan of. This next slide, you can see I've got titled Take the Wheel. Basically, this is just a reminder that the best thing you can do is to cook the food yourself. And the reason that I say that, I try to discourage eating out, is that you can control every single point in the cooking process. You can control where you grocery shop, what products you get. You can control how much salt you use, even the type of cooking oil you use. You can cut the fat, excess fat off of the meat. All these different things can go a long way to help you reach your goals and to stick with them. You know, just to remember that it's okay to say no thank you. This is something that I was especially keeping in mind around the holidays or those special occasions that, like I mentioned before, if we're honest with ourselves, it's not just the holidays. There's always something that's going to present itself, whether it's a baby shower, just about every week in our life that creates a situation we need to kind of be mindful of these choices and distractions. But, you know, if someone knows you're a big fan of a particular food item and has prepared it especially for you, you know, don't feel pressured. Include others on your goals. Ask them to hold you accountable. Say, hey, you know, I really want to do this for my health for these reasons. Can you help set me up for success? You know, don't pressure me to set myself up to get distracted from these goals. And you'd be surprised, you know, just being honest and getting family involved, that's going to go a long way with helping you. And more than not, people, loved ones are wanting to do that for you and help you. So getting involved in the cooking process is important. You know, trying out new recipes, finding areas you can make substitutions. The next couple slides I've got listed are a healthy focus on different food groups I wanted to just briefly mention. I've got a choose this, not that list. This first slide is about dairy. Really with dairy, we want to remind you to make sure you're keeping in the goal of moderate fat, low fat products. But you'll see here I've got listed things like spreads, you know, cream cheese, sour cream. So really just keeping in mind with the dairy, a lot of times these little extras are in the forms of fat. So trying to choose less spreads, and I'm using this slide as a reminder to not forget about those condiment choices, whether it be salad dressings, barbecue sauces, just to also remember that, you know, every little thing like that counts, so trying to pay attention to those items as well. A healthy focus on meat. We would want you to select leaner cuts of meat, such as turkey. Remove skin from poultry when preparing the food. Trim visible fat off of the meat, as I mentioned before. I really like this next bullet point. It's try something new like fish. And the reason I put this on here was I had someone telling me, you know, we always have ham at this occasion, or, you know, I don't know how to stick to my nutrition goal. And what I would say to that is, you know, like I mentioned before, try something new, change up tradition, get others involved. You know, don't be afraid to make choices that are gonna help set you up for success. And you can also end up having fun with it as well. Cooking techniques really matter. Grill, boil, stew, or bake instead of frying. Drain excess fat and grease off of the meat dishes before and or after cooking. Moving on to focusing on vegetables and grains. Same concept with the cooking process. I like to push baking, boiling, grilling versus frying. This is a good point. Focus on the vegetables, not combination dishes. A lot of times I'll have people, when I ask them, you know, tell me what you eat for dinner, and they'll say, well, you know, chicken with squash casserole, green bean casserole, and that's what I hear a lot. I try to remind people to let the vegetables stand for themselves. So instead of doing all these combination dishes, just try to put the focus and the attention back on the vegetable. You can play around with different spices and herbs, trying to bring out the taste of the vegetable and make it stand alone, have fun with it. But just remember to let vegetables shine on their own. That will also help you stick to your goals. Choosing several vegetables, kind of keeping in mind that choose my plate guideline. If you are in a situation where you find that, you know, let's say you are still hungry, going back for more vegetables is a better choice, obviously. So using vegetables to your advantage. Selecting whole grains. Whole grains, if you actually look on a nutrition label, if it says whole grains, that means that it's higher in fiber. And the reason I like to push this, whether it's diabetes, cardiac disease, bariatric surgery, it's going to help keep you fuller longer, and there's a lot more insoluble fiber, which is heart healthy. It will help to stabilize your blood sugar levels. There's a lot of different reasons it's important to get more whole grains, more complex carbs versus simple carbs. So trying to pick one grain with your meal as well. Next, I wanted to mention desserts and beverages. So, so far in this talk, we've been focusing on if you're full, stop eating, fill up on foods that are nutrient-dense at your meal. And what do I mean by nutrient-dense? I mean things that are high in water content and vitamins and minerals and lower in fat and calories, excess calories overall. So things like fruits and vegetables. And the concept here is that the 3 meals a day we have really should be sufficient, or are probably going to give us more than what we need. I know, especially with bariatric surgery, they discourage grazing or snacking in between meals. So I wanted to bring that up before I mentioned to, not be afraid to consider just passing on the desserts. I know I'm a dietitian, but I'll be honest with you, I've got a sweet tooth, and I understand the look on people's faces when I say just pass on the dessert. We're all human, but what I would like to encourage you to do is to set yourself up for success. Be honest with yourself. I can't take a bite and stop. I'm not going to have a candy dish, in my kitchen at my house. That's not smart. That's not helping me stick to my goals. But what I will do is have a fruit bowl and maybe, opt for fruit as a part of my meal, have it toward the end of my meal, and that will help me satisfy that sweet tooth. Don't forget, as far as beverages go, that liquids have calories too. I've got just, listed here some examples of beverages that can be pretty high in calories: fruit juice, sodas, sports drinks. The best advice I have with this is, we've got enough to think about. Whatever your particular goal or medical situation is, save the calories for the food. Sticking with water or non-calorie beverages is the best way to go. And I know, especially with bariatric surgery, that's really what the doctors want, sipping those non-calorie beverages in between meals. Right, because you don't have to worry about it. Less stress, less to think about. All right, so I really want to just leave with some final thoughts about just general mindful eating. Planning ahead is something I found as a dietitian that really works when I sit down and talk to people about this. We've mentioned that cooking at home is the best option because you control literally every single step possible. Packing your lunch, preparing meals ahead of time, you'd be surprised how many people, tell me, well, I work in a job that I'm not able to really eat well or like I want to, or I'm a truck driver and I am not able to stop and get meals or plan ahead. And I would say to that, I know it might be a little tougher in some situations, but there's not a single situation that we can't sit down and plan for and take into account some ways to still help you stick to your goals. And it's worth it to take that time to do so. So whether it's keeping a cooler in your truck, prepping on Sunday night ahead of time for the whole week, or thankfully nowadays we're able to look up the nutritional value of all of the meals. If you're finding that you're in a situation where you can't help it, you're going to be eating out, you can't help it, look up the menu ahead of time and know, okay, I'm going to be here. These are the best options possible for me. So you can make an informed decision with what you have to deal with that night. Always keeping in mind to pick a balanced option with protein, vegetables, a starch or grain. High protein, moderate fat, low sugar is definitely the best way to go across the board, specifically with bariatric surgery. Avoiding high fat, fried, and high sugar foods. Choosing baked or grilled options. And I really like to encourage people to ask how the food was prepared, really to not be afraid to make special requests. And the reason that I say this is if there's anything, really worth not being afraid about, it's this, because it's your life, it's your quality of life, and you cannot take care of anybody else unless you're taking care of yourself. Just like I mentioned in the beginning, the example of, you have to put fuel into a car for it to run, if you're expecting and relying on that car to get you places or to get there to pick up someone or bring someone else where they need to go, it's not going to work without that fuel. So we really just need to get back to the basics and focus on, why we're eating. It can still be good and fun, but we just really need to check ourselves, every time you're putting that food on that plate. Just make a few extra decisions, take a few extra moments to think about it, and it can really go a long way. I've got listed here even consider asking the server not to bring the bread basket. Set yourself up for success in that way. Just little things you wouldn't even really think about that can really help. So reminding yourself, I try to practice these myself too. Little things like this go a long way. Reminding yourself of your goals, being consistent with that. Make a list of why being healthy matters to you, keeping it in your purse, keeping it with you, just kind of reciting those things to yourself real quick. It's going to help set you up for success. Whether it's, let's say, for instance, diabetes. I try to tell my patients who are trying to keep their blood sugars under control, you can still have carbohydrates. We just want you to get the right amount at the right time. And, just to remind them, all it takes, just take a little extra thought behind what you're doing and why, make it work to help set yourself up. And it's the best thing to do for your future. So that's all about mindful eating. And I really hope that this helped kind of give you some good ideas, good things about how food can help you. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Well, I don't really have any questions about the presentation. That was great.
Okay.
But I do have some questions about, like, right now. And I don't know if you can help me with these or not. This is like, for the first 2 weeks on bariatric surgery, you're on a full liquid diet.
Yes, ma'am.
And we want you to have 3 high-protein, quote-unquote, meals a day, and then drink 64 ounces of fluids, pretty much calorie-free fluids for hydration the rest of the time.
Right.
So what I'm running into a problem is, if you have the protein drinks and everything, they might say 30 grams of protein. I get the high-protein, low-calorie ones, which say 30 grams of protein, but that's an 11-ounce serving. And there's no way I can get 11 ounces down now, except for, if I keep nursing it for, an hour and a half. And I'm sure that's not what he's intending. So I don't know how much, I end up getting Greek yogurt is one of my favorites, and it's being tolerated really well, thank heavens. And it's 13 grams of protein. That's wonderful, and only 5 ounces, and that's pretty doable. But that's pretty much the max I can get at one time is 4 or 5 ounces. And that's 13 grams, but then when I drink, like a protein drink or Carnation Instant Breakfast, yes, Carnation Instant Breakfast, he said to make it with skim milk, adds 8 more grams of protein. So that's 13 grams of protein total, but that's in an 8-ounce glass. So I'm really only getting half of that. So is that okay?
Yes, I hear what you're saying, definitely. I think what you need to remember, it sounds like you're actually doing a lot right with a full liquid stage, and it's going to kind of keep the same concept I'm about to mention in mind as you advance to a soft diet and a regular diet. But you just need to keep those points that the doctor and myself have told you. Always include a high-quality protein with each meal, which you are definitely doing, and it sounds like you're getting a lot of that down. But what I would remind you to do is, the surgeon, every surgeon's different, but here we don't come out and say, hit this number, hit that number with calories or protein.
Okay.
Right. So don't so much focus on that. Focus on the concept of moderate fat, low sugar, getting that high quality protein with each meal. And that way you're definitely going to make sure that you're getting that in at every meal, and you're going to find as the diet advances, you're going to be able to get in a little more at that time. But yeah, to me, honestly, it sounds like you're doing pretty good. But of course, I would always, if there's ever a concern that you're not getting enough in general or not tolerating it, just be sure to call your doctor about that for sure.
Okay. Well, the fluids, the hydration and fluids, I think I'm doing pretty well on. I'm following the thing in the, all the list of stuff that you handed out, with broth and vegetable broth. Swanson vegetable broth is better than the chicken or beef, let me tell you. but, you know, with hot vegetable broth and
Right.
you know, Splenda sweetened tea with lemon and, you know, and some of the Crystal Lights and everything. I'm a big fan of hot tea and stuff. So that I'm doing okay with on the hydration-wise. I was just concerned
Yes.
about the protein.
Getting in enough
And I was
protein,
really,
right.
yesterday, I was so excited. I was going to have some tomato soup. And I was concerned, it's listed as under your protein, but I was reading the back of the can, and it's really only like, you know, 3 grams of protein. I thought, well, crap, that's not very much protein.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter anyway because, well, when I started eating it, I didn't do very well anyway. I had like 3 spoonfuls, and it was hurting so bad, I just stopped.
Okay. Yeah, and you know what I would remind you too. Yeah, everyone's different. That's why it's individualized. That's why on that handout, you know, especially as the diet advances, we try to encourage people to keep a food diary, see what works for you, what doesn't. But really, you know, going back to the your first question too, I just want to remind you the whole point of this diet is mindful eating. So basically, you eat until you're full. If your body's telling you you're full and you know you're recognizing that feeling, you're probably getting in enough as long as you're getting in that high-quality protein in the beginning. You know, you're pretty much setting yourself up for success that way. So I think you should be good. But yeah, with that tomato soup, that's not going to have as much protein. That's more on the full liquid diet. So we have a few things just listed under there, but same concept. Just trying to make sure you're getting. Sounds like you're doing great with that Greek yogurt, getting that in, and that high quality protein with each meal. I was going to ask you, do you know when you go back to see Dr. Black?
Yes, I go back a week from tomorrow. Will be my 2-week visit.
Perfect. Okay. Yep. Yeah, so just always check in with your doctor, and our doctors here are awesome. They keep up with nutrition status, and if you ever have concerns, let them know. Can always call me at my office number as well about that.
Okay. All right. Yeah, my husband yesterday, he looked at me and he said, "Honey, I know this sounds strange because it hasn't even been a week, but I swear I can see some weight loss in your face." I said, "Give me a break." I said, "Well, thanks for the encouragement."
Well, it definitely sounds like you have been reading that handout thoroughly and taking it seriously. It's a lifestyle change. It really is, but it's worth doing, and it's something you've got to do it right. And it sounds like you definitely are making sure you're doing just so. So I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. I'm started keeping a food diary too. I started it on day 1. Right after I came home, I started it, and I just write down how much I've got a column for protein intake, for hydration intake. I've written down, this is gross, I've written down if I've had a bowel movement and, what it's like, because I've only had 2 since I've been home. They're kind of frothy and greasy. Is that normal? Okay. They almost remind me right after I had gallbladder removal surgery. Is what they remind me of.
Yeah.
So,
with your change, I'm sorry, this is Lisa. With your change in your diet, that is expected. If it keeps up, though, when you go back and just tell them, that it still has not returned back to normal quite yet. I wouldn't worry about it at this point in time, but just let the office know when you go back and stuff if it hasn't changed yet.
Okay. I'm keeping record of that and keeping my exercise written down on there. And, if there were any certain things like I wrote down yesterday about not tolerating the tomato soup after 3 spoonfuls, I just abandoned it. So, but I am having, I don't know, it's not exactly a full sensation, but it hurts actually. Like in between, just below my breast.
Yeah, that's.
Is that what the full sensation is?
Yeah, that or it's probably, and it's probably gas and stuff like that built up from just changes in your diet and things like that. So that
I do appreciate it's a lot of gas, because a lot of times then I don't exactly burp. I've been passing gas rectally, flatus, but I don't exactly burp, but I'll I don't know, it doesn't come out as an actual sounding burp, but I can feel it coming up air, and it hurts right then. So that's probably it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And anytime you have that problem, just getting up and, like, if you're sitting, walking around, changing positions some and things like that, a lot of time that frees up that air too a lot quicker, so you're more comfortable faster, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, that's good to know, because a lot of times I do notice it even when I first get up in the morning, upon rising, from bed, getting up, and I think, how can I be full? I haven't eaten anything or drank anything, but you're probably right. That's probably the air moving.
Absolutely. Okay. And unfortunately, as we get older, that just keeps coming. So.
Yeah, and I said, I really want to do this now. I'm not 60 yet, but dang, it's looming on the horizon really quickly.
Well, I applaud you for doing this. This is a great thing that you're doing.
Well, I just, my mom passed away in October, and my mom and my sister are very tiny people, and I'm supposed to be a very tiny person. If you look at my wrists and my feet and everything's really little, and my mom and my sister had kind of had an intervention with me multiple times. My mom's been after me for over a year, and my mom, before she passed, bless her heart, my mom set aside money specifically for me to have this surgery.
Oh,
wow.
Yes, she did.
So you had a great motivator.
You did, yep.
Yeah. And I don't want to let her down, because I know she's watching. And she's probably my biggest fan.
That's right.
Yep.
But my sister is on board, and have moved down here now. I'm up, instead of living in Georgia up there away from family, I'm down here a block from my sister now in my mom's old house, which is what my mom wanted. And I think part of the reason she wanted me down here so close to my sister is so we could support each other, and so my sister could also support me in this weight loss, because my mom was really concerned about it, and I think she'd be very happy with the way we're heading. And my sister told me, she said, we got to go ahead and get this scheduled, Hope, and I'll help you through everything. She said, because this is what Mom wanted, and I know this is what you want, so we got this.
You've got a good support system, very, very loved. You just keep taking it day by day and keeping in the back of your mind those goals. The nutrition's very important. You got to do it the right way, be healthy about it, but it sounds like you're taking it real seriously. And keep your doctor posted every time you go to see Dr. Black. You can let him know you called into the webinar. That's awesome.
I am. I already wrote that down in my food journal tonight, that I went to the webinar, so I'm going to take my food journal with me when I go in to see him, so he can see what I've been doing and how serious I am about it, because I think he was a little bit worried that maybe I wasn't going to stick with it. I'm not exactly sure. Maybe because I have rheumatoid arthritis too, and he sensed a little bit of hesitation on my part when he was telling me, no NSAIDs. And that's going to be, quite honestly, very hard for me with RA. I've been on, and I had to come off of my diclofenac 2 weeks ago now, and that's been difficult. I hurt really bad, so, but I figure as soon as I shed 100 pounds, hey, my RA is going to, it's not going to go away, but it's going to be a lot easier. I have bilateral knee implants, and, you know,
True.
less weight on them is going to be wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely.
You've got such a positive outlook.
Well, we're going to be doing different webinars once about every 3 months. We call them like a quarter and stuff, so about every 3 months. And we'll have flyers out at the doctor's offices when the next one comes and stuff like that. What we can also do is we can keep your email address if you don't mind, and then when we get the new seminars in, we can send that to you.
Yes, please do.
Okay. I will put that in your chart with my contact notes and stuff, and so that way when we have another webinar we can send you the information with the correct attachment to it so you can link right in.
Yeah, that was definitely much easier after you sent me the attachment.
Good deal. Well, we appreciate you working with us, being our first one that we've done. So.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not a problem. I think it went very well, and I appreciate your time, and I'll give good feedback on this to Dr. Black. So.
Well, we appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And you have.
Thank you very much.
Catherine, you're welcome. You have Catherine's number on your physician discharge papers. If you have any questions, you can always give us a call. Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Lisa. You ladies have a good evening.
I will. You do the same. Thank you.
Bye-bye.